Hello, and welcome to part two of the Creating Reports in Qualtrics workshop from the Center for Teaching, Research, and Learning at American University. This is video two of a two-part series. In this video, we will be covering some more options for editing visualizations, report settings, and report sharing options. All right, so we're going to open up Qualtrics. So the first thing we're going to cover is how to visualize open-ended or qualitative responses. So open-ended responses can be visualized in a table or with a word cloud of the most frequently used words across responses. So if you have a question where your survey participants entered their own answer, like they did free response, like written essay question or short answer, then you can visualize the most frequently used words across the responses by using a word cloud. So that's the example we're going to show. All right, so we're going to go to a question where participants had to write their responses in. So if we go to question 4, or question 5 in response to question 4 is uh, if uh, if they selected which of their interests that they felt their interests weren't being represented, then the follow-up question is which of your interests do you feel are not being represented? So we're going to select this question, and there we go. So the options are a table, and sometimes Qualtrics just takes a second to load, just be patient. And there we go. So there's the table, and the table just shows all the written responses in like in a few pages. So it just has them written out. It doesn't really create uh, as big of a visual as we would like. So the one that I like to use is the word cloud, which on the visualization editing window on the right hand side, the word cloud option is under visualization and it's next to the paginated table. So if we select that one, then we get this word cloud. And right now it's capped at 50 words. You can see the words behind these two are very light in color. You can change the color scheme here. So if we select something darker, it's still not showing up as well as we would like. But that's okay. It's just an example. You can also change the orientation. So right now it's at horizontal, but if you want it to be angled or diagonal, it can switch there. Or you can switch it to horizontal and vertical there. So there's just different options for that. And if you want fewer words, like say I only want the top 5 words instead of the top 50, I can do that there. And then it's narrowed down to just a few words: income, universal, cancel, address, and action. So those are the top 5 most used words across the people that responded to this question. So that's just an option for visualizing your qualitative responses if you have any in your survey that may not be able to put in charts and graphs. Um, this can be an option for how people talked about something or used words, just to give people that you're making the report for an idea of what people talked about in their written responses. All right, and then next thing we're going to show is how to visualize descriptive statistics. So for numerical data, in addition to displaying things as a figure or a chart or a graph, we can also display things in statistics tables. So let's go to an example. Yeah, if we go to back to Q4, we can see the graph and chart that we edited earlier. And you can also see, if you scroll down a little bit, that there's a few statistics tables that show the minimum, maximum, mean, standard deviation, variance, and the response count for the question. So we can see, and then we can also see the chart beneath that that shows the number of respondents for each subsection. So this is the number of every single person that strongly agreed to this statement, and then so on and so forth, all the way to strongly disagreed. And if we select the statistics table, then we can see more options. You can select which columns you want displayed. So if you, for instance, don't want the standard deviation displayed, you can uncheck it and it'll take it out of the statistics table. And if you decide later you want to put it back in, you would just recheck it and it'll automatically go back in. Um, so you can also have display options. If you don't want the row numbers shown, you can do that there. So these numbers that just number each statement, if you don't want the rows numbered like that, you can just uncheck that box. Same thing, you can also put a title under each statistics table, as just like you could with the charts and the graphs. You can say how many decimal points you want, and you can even break out by any other question or by embedded data too if you want. All breakouts can also be done by embedded data. So if you want to filter any of your results, that is possible there. And yeah, so that's just an option for visualizing descriptive statistics. Um, you just have to select which options you would like on the right-hand side. And the options for tables are under visualization. And if you want a table instead of a figure or a chart or a graph, you would just either select simple table or further to the right, there's statistics table. So this one with the minimum, maximum, mean, standard deviation, all those descriptive statistics is a statistics table. And this one where it just shows the count that um, was given for each of the statements in like a like art agree to disagree, that is just a simple. All right. So next we're going to go over report settings real quick. So we're going to go back to the top and under the gear option, you can see how we have report settings here. And we're just going to let it load for a second. But while that's loading, the report settings just help you control different aspects of your report. You can choose a default metric, the number of decimal places, and the color palette that you want used in all of your visuals to keep it consistent. And for that, you can choose from the library of pre-built color palettes, or you can select a custom one and create your own. You can also do the font across your report, if you want to select a specific font or spacing for any text in your report, you can determine the visualizations that are included by default, and you can save the settings so that you can reuse them for a future report. So here's some font options. Oops. If you want default visualizations, they're right here. And just other different settings are right here. So if you want to apply the default settings, you would just select that. You can save them, or you can, if you decide later you want to apply the Qualtrics default settings back instead of your own, you would do that here. Then you just hit Save Settings. So you can customize that right there. And yeah, so this is just an option for keeping your settings consistent if you want them different from the Qualtrics default setting. Right. And that's having trouble loading, but that's okay. We don't need to see the question right now, so it's all right. I'm going to cancel that out. And then, as I mentioned before in the first video, you have options for filtering your reports at the top right here. You can add a filter to create different reports based on any kind of participants you want to filter, whether that's by a question or a demographic or something. You can even filter by embedded data. So if you used embedded data in your survey where you randomly assigned participants to different groups and they were unaware that their survey was different depending on what group they're randomly assigned to. So for instance, in this survey, some people were randomly given $50 or $500 to donate to an organization, and they were randomly assigned an amount. If I want to separate the people that were assigned 50 versus 500 and see how the rest of the report was different for them, I can do that here. So it's just options for creating different reports easily if you want to break out your report. Again, if you're done with the filter, make sure you take it off and delete it, or it will stay there and all of your results will be filtered. So remember, if you're done with the filter, please take it off. All right. And then the last thing that we're going to go over is just options for sharing your reports. So if we go to the share reports option at the top right. All right, so here are the sharing report options. The methods for sharing your reports can be exporting them. So we can generate and share a digital copy of the report in a PDF or a Word document, a PowerPoint, CSV format, etc. We can also manage public reports right here. This creates a version of your report that is available via a public web link. You can lock your report with an access code with this option. And then you can also schedule email. And this just sends your report as an email attachment. In addition, if you don't want to share the entire report, you just want to share a page or a visual, you can actually go to a specific page here and export it. And there's all the options as a PDF, Word, PowerPoint, or CSV. So if you want to share just one page, that's an option. If you want to share just one visual, you can also share an individual visualization by hitting these three dots at the top of the visualization and then hit export, and you can export it as an image file. So those are options in the right-hand corner of Pages and of Visuals that let you export them just by clicking the export option. And then you can just export a small part of your report. So if you're not finished with the entire thing yet and you just want to show someone one page or one visual, that's possible through that option. Okay, so that is the end of the workshop. I hope this was helpful for creating reports in Qualtrics, and thank you for listening.